Ladies and gentlemen, Americans are flooding into Mexico City, and some of the residents there in Mexico are not happy at all to see them. Now, these Americans are staying permanently because of the cheap cost of living, and many of us have heard about that for decades, how much cheaper it is to be in Mexico. Well, everybody there is not happy about this. Some people are very upset about all these Americans coming from nowhere. So, Mexico has long been the top foreign travel destination for Americans. It's bountiful. We heard about the beautiful beaches, and some Americans go there annually. And, because it's just so cheap and reasonable. But in recent years, a growing number of tourists and remote workers hailing from Brooklyn, New York, Silicon Valley, and points in between have flooded the nation's capital and left a scent of new wave imperialism. So no, everybody is not happy and and embracing these folks. So the influx actually started in 2020 during the pandemic. During the lockdown, a lot of people fled out of the US into Mexico because they feared the direction that America was going into, and they did not want to be locked down. They did not want to lose their privileges by being stuck at home. So many of them traveled across the border and have been there since. So the influx, which has accelerated since the onset of the 2020 pandemic, is now likely to continue as inflation rises, is transforming some of the city's most treasured neighborhood into expat enclaves. Mm-mm-mm. In leafy, walkable quarters such as Roma, Condesa, Centro. The rents are soaring as Americans and other foreigners snap up houses, and landlords trade long term renters for travelers willing to pay more on Airbnbs. There's a lot of eateries around where people like to go and run and get food. And mm-mm-mm. So they're seeing a lot of these places where families could go and eat are turning into Pilates studios, co-working spaces, and sleek cafes advertising oat milk lattes and avocado toast. And English is cropping up all over the place. Well, it's everywhere, ringing out at supermarkets, natural wine bars, and fitness classes in the park. At Laredo, a Mediterranean restaurant where on any given night, three-quarters of the tables are filled with foreigners. A Mexican man in a well-cut suit recently took a seat at the bar gazing at the English language menu. Oh man, they are I see why they're upset. So, everything was once upon a time in Spanish, but because so many Americans are living there and spending money there, they're now forcing the residents to look at everything in English, which they never had happen before. Oh, I see why they're upset. America, you would be upset if the areas you lived in, because there were a high number of Mexicans, it turned into Spanish language everywhere. You would have a fit and you know it. So, ladies and gentlemen, so he's looking at a menu in English, which, you know, he hands the menu back and say Spanish, please. Wow. Well, some of the locals are completely fed up with the whole thing. Recently, they're seeing all kinds of posts and signs in English all around town. new to the city, working remotely, they read in English. Your effing plague. And the locals effing hate you. Leave. Mm-mm-mm. So I guess some of them are trying to fight back. They want these folks gone. The sentiment echoed in hundreds of responses that poured in after a young American posted this seemingly this crazy tweet. So do yourself a favor and remote work in Mexico City. It's truly magical. So I guess, people that have local businesses are now catering to these Americans because they're spending their money there. So they are changing a lot of places over to English. And the local residents, they are not happy. Woo! Please don't read. One of the kinder replies, the city is becoming more and more expensive every day, in part because of people like you, and you don't even realize it or care about it. Mm-mm-mm. A video game designer who grew up in Florida and Namibia and has spent the last several months working remotely from Mexico City. People there are from Montreal, so even some Canadians are in there. Says he understands why the locals are vexed by the growing number of digital nomads. There is a distinction between people who want to learn about the place they are in and those who just like it because it's cheap, he said. I've met a number of people who don't really care that they're in Mexico, they just care that it's cheap. Clear financial incentives are drawing Americans to Mexico City, where the average local salary is $450 a month for the cost of a one bedroom in Koreatown. The rent is $2,000 if you rent a penthouse. Despite growing tensions in Mexico City, they're saying this is not Paris, where an American stumbling over French. So, they said the hostility is growing towards Americans that are there. People are getting upset. So, mm-mm-mm. So in a sense, y'all, they're gentrifying Mexico City. That's what they're doing. They're gentrifying the place. Isn't that what they always do? This is not new. The vast majority of people in this crowded, colorful metropolis is unwaveringly kind and patient with international visitors who, in the first 4 months of the year, spent $851 million on hotels alone, according to tourism records. Yeah, that's why they're going to continue to cater to Americans. Look at the amount of money Mexico City is making. There is friction beneath the surface as more locals consider what gentrification means for the city's economic, culture, and even race relations. Over the weekend, a tenant advocacy group hosted a walking tour, places we have lost to gentrification. Mm-mm-mm. Touristification and forced displacement our homes. The event flyer read, now house digital nomads. Ooh, so they're driving the Mexican residents out of the area and Americans are taking over. Well, that's how gentrification is done. Colonizing, gentrification, they don't care. At the end of the day, they just see it all about them. So the dramatic playing out here is in many ways an old world problem colliding with tech age mobility. One is forcing Mexico to confront its own history and traits. After his revelation at the cafe, where the cafe is handing him English menus. So The influx of foreigners in Mexico City stinks of modern, they're calling it colonizing. Nearly 2,000 people posted comments in agreement. So, yeah, they're colonizing the place and they're going to keep doing it. As long as word keeps coming back to America how cheap it is in Mexico, you can best believe thousands more will come filing in there, you know? So, one of the locals were saying, but also the fact that Mexicans cannot migrate to the US with the same ease. So saying it's real easy for Americans to come across the border and just decide to live there, but it's not so easy the other way around. He also believes that Americans, many of whom are white, are reinforcing the city's persuasive, if infrequent, discuss caste system. Oh, you mean they came to your country and they're playing colorism? Oh, really? Mm. Well, let's see what one of these locals got to say.
Hay un fenómeno bastante interesante sucediendo en México que tiene que ver con extranjeros. Y es como si cada vez hubiera más en la ciudad. Por ejemplo, yo vivo en la colonia Roma y a veces me café.
Okay, so let's see what he was saying here. So, Mexicans are more likely to be poor than lighter skinned Mexicans and are largely unrepresented in film, television, and advertisement, a growing social movement. Brown power has demanded that Netflix, HBO, and other streaming platforms feature dark skinned actors. Yeah, well, I tell you what, if Americans are pouring in there, more of a caste system is going to be played up in there. The flood of American visitors began the earnest around 2016 when New York Times named Mexico City one of the top travel destination and magazine writers they were calling it the new Berlin, and that was back in 2016. So since then, it's been an influx of Americans coming across the border to stay. And they're saying they have made it easier for Americans to have long been able to stay in Mexico up to 6 months with no visa. Yeah, see, it's all about money. That's what it's really all about. The State Department says there is 1.6 US citizens living in Mexico, although it doesn't know how many are based in the capital city. Mexican census data track only foreigners who have applied for residency, and most remote workers don't. They don't apply for residency. But the anecdotal evidence is compelling. In the first 4 months of the year, 1.2 million foreigners arrived at Mexico City Airport. Hmm. Wow. Think about it. If you are working remotely, technically you can live anywhere you want, including Mexico or Canada for that matter. So a lot of these people, this is what they do. They have their remote jobs and they just go across the border to live in Mexico, but they are hella mad that they're being gentrified. Oh boy, now y'all know how we feel. Y'all tell me what you think about what's going on. And some of these Mexicans are speaking out and complaining. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.